Before we get started, I just wanted to make a quick announcement to say that we got our first sponsorship. So, a bit of time ago, one of my old high school teachers, who wishes to remain anonymous, contacted me and they said that they really believed in what we were doing, they thought it was important, and wanted to help us keep doing it by sponsoring our next 10 episodes. Starting with this episode and barring any odd interruptions, these next 10 episodes are sponsored and dedicated to an old high school teacher of mine. Thank you so much, you're a real one. Additionally, if anyone else would like to sponsor us or support us financially, we're also launching a Patreon. And I'll let Yeji explain that. Take it away.
Yay! So we recently just set up our Patreon. It's still technically a draft right now, but it should be uploaded by the time we get this out. We're gonna have three tiers to start. Tier one's gonna be $5 every month. We have bloopers every 4 to 5 episodes and early ad-free episodes for y'all. So again, that'll be tier one for $5. Tier two will be $10 a month. You'll have access to a personal Discord that we're gonna set up for y'all. You'll be able to chat with us in real time and get access to all the chaos and stuff in the chats. And then you will also have voting power for every fifth episode that we do. So every 5 episodes, we will take down votes for things that you want us to do episodes on. Tier 3 is going to be $20, and with that, you will get a monthly video call with us so that we can chat about what you're loving, what you're disliking, anything that you want to say to us, all those comments, criticisms, cries of outrage, that sort of thing. Also, you will get a scrolling name thingy at the end of our YouTube videos. We will have to probably get a few more people down for tier 3 once we start doing the scrolling name thingy, because it'd be like really tragic if it was just like one name. So, but yeah, and also if you are any tier above 1, you will get the like access to the tiers that are below it as well. So like tier 3 will have the tier 1 and tier 2 benefits, and tier 2 will have tier 1 benefits as well. So stay tuned for that. And eventually, once Anna and I get the ball rolling on this stuff too, we hope to have like merch and other things on there for you so that, we can support y'all the way that you are supporting us as well. And we're really, really excited to start putting out some more stuff for y'all to be a little bit more interactive, so that we can, put out the stuff that y'all want to see, but also like share our creative process with you as well.
Awesome. I'll have all of that linked in the description below. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Hello everyone, my name is En.
And my name is Yeji, and this is Our Own Canon.
We created this show as a way for us to discuss and debate pieces of art, literature, philosophy, television, film.
Basically, anything and everything that has left an impression on us as Asian American college-age nerds with social anxiety and affinity for Vietnamese iced coffee.
Nerds, which we absolutely are, so get prepared to get lost in the weeds.
But don't worry, we'll offset with enough irony and sarcassery to keep things not boring for y'all.
And of course, thank you for listening and supporting the show. We hope you love what we have prepared today. Hello.
Hello. I'm so excited for today.
I am too, but I don't know why I'm excited. There's a lot of feelings going on here, and I'm not sure what they are, so we're going to work through them today. I think
yes,
that's what
we
it
are.
is.
This is so An made me watch Rent a Girlfriend, and he is now the cause of me having to do some therapy, and so now this movie is something that I referred to him, and this is now our official clinical session where we get to talk about this piece.
I don't think this is as bad as Rent a Girlfriend, though, because, like, I had fun with this. Rent a Girlfriend just made me, like, either really uncomfortable or mad or, like, or just, like, not wanting to be there. But, like, I willingly sat through this movie. I would willingly sit through this movie again.
Yeah.
Probably with alcohol and friends. But...
Yeah. Next time to actually, make it more fun. No, I actually really liked this movie the first time that I watched it, which I watched it when I was really, really young. And you know those movies where you're like 99% sure that it was like not real, that it was like a fever dream or something, and then you find out that it was real and you watch it again and you like remember the things that you remembered that you thought were fake? Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is that
You're like,
movie
only
for
a
me.
child's imagination can make this. And like, honestly, yeah.
Honestly, it makes sense, like for particularly for this film. So, this is The Forbidden Kingdom, the 2008 one. I believe there is a sequel, but I haven't seen the sequel. But
I'll watch it
yeah,
gladly.
yeah,
I'll watch the sequel after this.
I
And
love the sequel
as
too.
long as it still has Jet Li and Jackie Chan, which is like the draw for this movie, right?
Yes, yes.
Bring in two powerhouses.
I just love I love Jackie Chan so much. I think he's such an icon, and when you watch older films like from the early 2000s and stuff with him in it, like you really realize why he was as big as he was, and like he really did define, I think, like a whole generation of movies. And this movie in particular feels very like early 2000s, and so I don't know, this movie feels like iconoclastic to me. I don't know. I really liked it. But I would love to actually sit down and hear your thoughts, because all I got from when you watched the movie the first time was you were in the Discord and you were in the live reactions, and I was just reading all of your live reactions.
My notes are great.
They
Not
are really
useful for
great.
going back and gleaning anything from them, but they're great.
No, I really love them. It's also like I woke up and it was like 200 plus unread messages.
Oops, sorry. Didn't realize I was going that hard.
And so that was nice. That was fun. But
All right, so
yeah,
for this
no, let's get
episode,
into it.
are are we top picks, or are we Raccoon Rambles, or another thing? I'm
Hmm.
genuinely quite not sure.
I That's a good question. How about here? How about we talk about the movie, talk about what works, talk about what doesn't work, right? And then we'll decide at the end whether or not it's gonna be a top picks or a Ramcoon Rambles. Though to be
All
honest with you,
right.
like if you read the title of the episode, it's gonna be a spoiler for you, I guess, on like what we what we end up deciding. But
Oops.
something to look forward to, I guess.
All right. So, Forbidden Kingdom featuring Jackie Chan and Jet Li. First thing to note, the title sequence is great. I love how like they have like the Jack. I don't know why it stuck out to me so much. I feel like someone had a lot of fun doing this, where it says like
Hmm.
Jackie Chan, and then like under it with the same J, it says Jet Li. Like it's like dumb how much I like that, but I do.
Nice. Yes. Yeah, no, the intro sequence is really fun, and I like how they did like old wuxia movie posters, which like I think that watching this right after watching Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was actually really cool, simply
Hmm.
because you can see where they got a lot of inspiration from and sort of look into the so like how I said that like Jackie Chan movies define like us as a generation, like what kind of movies inspired Jackie Chan's generation kind of thing, you know? Or like the
Yeah,
movies that
yeah.
they were originally in that inspired like more fun movies like this to come out. Not more fun, more like I guess like this is like a parody of a wuxia movie. You know, I wouldn't necessarily say that this is a wuxia movie in the same way that like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is, but it's definitely like a
It's
romp.
yeah, it's definitely something you can only do after the genre has been like iterated enough
Yeah.
to have like, I wouldn't say critiques, but just have fun with the tropes that are going on here.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Which is why they can do the thing like the posters that you were talking about in the
Hmm.
intro. Yeah.
Also, all those posters are great recommendations for us later for older
Yeah.
stuff that apparently we're on like some sort of like martial arts kung fu wuxia kick.
Yeah,
So
but I like that. I'm not upset. I'm not upset about it. And that might be like super Asian though.
I mean, this whole podcast is kind of super Asian. So
That's
is
true
that
as well. So,
not
yeah.
necessarily a bad thing?
Not mad at it. Okay, so
Also,
the
I've been trying to
intro.
make a better point at this in our
Yes.
podcast.
Yes.
Spoiler warning ahead.
Oh,
There are going to be a lot of spoilers, and I recommend watching this movie. It's fun. It's a fun time. Bring your
yeah.
friends along. A little bit of alcohol probably would make it a little more fun
A
too.
little bit more fun, yeah. No, I absolutely agree. This is a really fun movie. I do think that alcohol would help. Just, to a certain extent. There's also just like a person who is an alcoholic in this in this movie, so you guys can drink together. Uh, okay, so you like the opening. Where do you want to go from there?
Uh, let's just play and bad recaps and see where this goes.
Oh, okay, wonderful, wonderful. Let's do it.
All right. Unlike for the last episode I did have notes, but they were good notes. This one, my notes are basically just a bunch of random messages.
I love that though. I really do think that okay, because I read your live reactions? Like, can I read some of them because they're so good?
Honestly, go for it.
Okay,
Starting with
okay,
the first one.
okay,
You gotta
okay.
go
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
first
yeah.
one.
So it says. The Weinstein Company. Oof.
Yeah, it's like watching old like movies always is like such like a minefield now because like about every other one you're in the opening sequence and it just says the Weinstein Company and it's like it's not one of the like subtle things that you can miss. It's literally just spelled out right there in front of you
You got a little bit of whiplash from that, I see.
and like it's just in so much stuff you can't really avoid it. Like you can't just like I'm never gonna watch a Weinstein like thing again
Yeah.
because then you're not like never gonna watch a movie again.
Oh my goodness. But that is a hilarious note to start on for sure. The second one is in all caps, why is he a monkey? And then the second one, okay, not a monkey, LOL. So what Anne is referring to here is so this movie is kind of like a parody on The Journey to the West, which is a very, very prolific story that has many different iterations, many different like not versions, but like remakes. Like people, like take that story and they put their own twist on it. But it's everywhere. Like you.
Yeah, it's almost like mythological to a point, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
like it's just like so embedded in the culture that it's something
Mm-hmm.
that constantly gets reiterated on
Yeah.
and tried out in different ways under different like perspectives and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, like exactly what you said, mythological is a huge part of like Asian media even now. Like you can't, I mean, every anime you'll probably find some kind of Journey to the West like reference of some sort, or like there are literally anime where like the main character is named Sun after
Yeah.
Sun Wukong. So, which is actually something that the Forbidden Kingdom does. Our main character is a white boy, and we'll get
I
more into that later. But
I legitimately don't know his name. He is just like in my mind as like white boy for this entire movie because I do not know his name. It's so bad.
white boy, capital W, capital B. No, his name is Jason Tripithecus.
Okay, so white
Um,
boy.
Yes, but Tripithecus is a play on Tripitaka, who was the monk that is the main character in The Journey to the West. His name is Tripitaka, and he's like the reincarnation of the Golden Cicada, who is the one who is supposed to bring the scriptures or scrolls or some sort. It's like a holy documents to Buddha, and that's why he goes on the Journey to the West. Is that he's like delivering this thing back to, or not back to, but like to the Buddha. And so I actually thought that was kind of cool, just like slipping that in there, but I thought it was
Mhm.
also kind of corny and on the nose. Like as a nerd, I appreciated it, but as somebody who like is a writer myself, I'm like, that's so corny. That's like so you guys tried so hard to like fit that in somewhere, and it's really funny.
But that's like what this movie is, and I'll get to that
Yeah.
at the end.
Yes.
But like
There's
this
so many
movie
more of these.
is camp. Like this is
Yes.
like the best form of camp.
Yes. So moving on. An says, this dude is distractingly white for what I thought was gonna be a kung fu movie. And oh, and then before that, you said mentioned the Shaw Brothers, which makes me remember that I want to talk about the Wu-Tang Clan in some way at some point. So another topic.
Another thing to
Another
add to the
thing.
list of many things that we want to talk about. But genuinely, like, I do want to do like some sort of like Wu Tang Clan thing, cause like hip hop's like a really big part of my life, and like nothing is more interestingly a part of like Asian culture than the Wu Tang Clan, because
Mm,
they're like hip hop artists, they're black, but they also are like so influenced by Asian media, specifically the Shaw Brothers, right?
mm-hmm.
And also like I can't be the only one who thought that they were Asian for the longest time. Like they're called the Wu Tang Clan. So like
This is
they're
true.
genuinely like a really important part of like my like relationship with hip hop.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that we'll definitely talk a little bit more about like music and stuff. We're a bit on like a show and movie jag right now, but we'll definitely get more into like books and songs. I will say that I think that like music and books in particular require a bit more heavy lifting in terms of interpretation and artistic intent and thinking about all that stuff than like movies do, because movies kind of utilize all those different things to tell an entirely different story. Like for instance, like the music in this movie, right? There's a sequence where the Jade Warlord, again another character that we'll talk about, and Sun Wukong are fighting, and every time the Monkey King makes a move, there's like these really playful like flute sequences in the background, but then every time the Jade Warlord makes a move, it's like very deep, like more brassy instruments, and it's just really cool to like watch that dynamic work out while they're fighting and everything like that. Like, but we could analyze that song completely separately, right? And all the elements
Hmm.
that go into that. But when we're looking at like a movie or a show, we're looking at how the music would impact the scene or what we're actually seeing on the screen, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think that music and books would be a little bit more complicated, but I'm getting off topic. I'm sorry. Wu Tang Clan at
Technically on
some
topic, the
point.
music is very good in this movie. Like
Yeah.
genuinely, from the first track, I was automatically. I love the interplay between like more like traditional, like ancient sounding,
Mm-hmm.
stereotypically sounding sounds with like more of like the modern stuff, and like they use it really well to like really put you in the place that they want you to be. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just the settings and stuff like that and the props and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. It's also the music, and
Mm-hmm.
a little subtle, but it like goes a long way.
Yeah, no, really. And so, yeah, at this point in the movie, we're introduced to Jason Trapidicus, who is, as On said, distractingly white for what I thought was going to be a kung fu movie.
Yeah,
And
it's
he
starring
is.
Jet Li
He's
and Jackie Chan, and like
very.
they kind of like your first moment in the movie is with Jason, and it's just like kind of just, and
Jason!
he's also not like, and his personality, the way like he's portrayed in the movie is like really like intensely like geeky and like nerdy and like
Mm-hmm.
distracting to
Yes.
what I was expecting from the movie.
Yes. He's definitely giving a lot of like Shia LaBeouf in the first Transformers movie.
I think you nailed
Um,
it right there. Yeah.
Yeah, like very, very white, very kind of gormless, like doesn't really know what's going on, kind of thing. In my notes on this scene, I said, white kid obsessed with kung fu movies. What could possibly go wrong? And then right after that, I said, I realize this movie reminds me a lot of The Sorcerer's Apprentice and Transformers. So Transformers in particular, right? With
Uh-huh.
like the Shia LaBeouf vibes and everything, and we'll probably like I'll maybe go into that comparison a little bit more because I think that there's like a little bit more to be played with in that sense
Hmm.
of like a kid getting transformed into like this weird almost otherworld kind of thing. And then The Sorcerer's Apprentice is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think that movie is so campy, it makes me laugh, but it's only campy because we're so far removed from the time that it actually was made. Like when I first watched that movie in theaters, I thought it was the greatest movie I was ever going to see. Like
Oh, how times has
unironically.
changed.
Right. And so like I think a lot of the things that happen in the Forbidden Kingdom are like very much products of its time, which going straight from that into there's like a group of bullies that come out like right after Jason is introduced, and one of the guys just drops like the word chink.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Bro, that caught me off guard
what the
so
fuck?
hard. So hard.
In your
I was
notes,
not ready for it.
in your notes, it's they said chink. Ah.
It's just so out of left field because like this is not what I signed up. I'm still like mentally coming to grips that the main character is neither Jet Li nor Jackie Chan, right? And then now like, okay, first of all, the acting of the bullies is like really awful. Like he's
Oh
just
yeah,
over the top,
it's so bad.
just like a dick for no good reason, right? He's just like beating this dude up, and then and then he sees like him like with this bag of like Hong Kong like kung fu movies, and it's just like, hey, doesn't that like belong to the chink like in the alleyway or something like that? And I'm just like,
wait,
wait. Hold on. Three steps back. You can't just like that. And like, I'm not saying that like movies shouldn't like, I like there are ways to properly use like slurs and like they're like in ways that are like thought provoking, provocative, mean something, right? Like I'm not gonna say like no movie should ever, right?
Yeah.
But this is not a moment in which it was profound in any way.
Yeah, no. And that's what
It
I
was just
think.
bad.
Yeah, and that's what I think is so fascinating about just like language in general is that this movie was made in 2008. But I don't think that
What?
saying that word was as bad as it was like not even 10 years ago. You know, like right now it's considered like it's really considered like a slur, right? But back then
Mhm.
I think it was just like a semi-offensive thing to kind of just say, you know? And that's why it's so
Mhm.
casual and there's no time spent at all like dissecting it because I don't think that it was meant to be like I mean it's meant to highlight like how bad the bullies are,
Mhm.
but also like we didn't really need to see like literally the next scene is one of those kids like shooting the store owner. Like we didn't need them to drop the word chank for us to know that they're like bad people, you know what I mean? Like I think that this
Yeah.
was just part of like the vernacular and it wasn't supposed to be like a bombshell thing, but I remember like I rewatched it again, like I rewatched it for the episode and I did not remember that moment like at all. And when it happened, I remember like pausing the movie and like rereading the subtitles because I was like, he did not just say that. Oh my god. But yeah,
Yeah.
no. That happened.
That was, you know, I also suspect that like having like Asian directors helming this film probably also maybe made them a little more comfortable using it than like if it was like not an Asian director, you know,
Mhm.
which might contribute to why it's like used casually. But I still agree with you. It's like you could characterize this bully character pretty effectively without resorting to having to use racial slurs. Like
Yeah.
it feels not necessary and it doesn't add particularly much to the movie. I don't think
Yeah. No, I
more
would
than
agree
just
with
like
you.
being kind of weird.
Yeah. Okay, so racism alert.
Oops.
So right after that, they basically force Jason to take them back to the shop so that they can like steal cash from the guy who the store owner's his name is Hop, and Jason calls him Old Hop. And it's kind of made clear that Hop knows Jason pretty well. Like Jason's probably there a lot, you know, hanging out with him, spending time with him. So when they go back to the shop, Jason's like, he comes in, and then all the bullies follow him in, and then Hop gets shot. Like,
Yeah, it's the most jarring thing. Like I don't understand why this dude's just pulling guns like that in this like it's just nothing about the situation warrants that level of violence. Like
yeah.
it just doesn't make sense. He like later in like that scene he like starts like trying to kill Jason because like he knows that this is gonna be like a lot of trouble for him because he just
Yeah.
shot a man,
Yeah.
right? So like this guy like internally knows that like this is a really bad idea, but he just like casually just whips out a gun and shoots the guy. It's the most jarring thing. This movie has a lot of very jarring moments in it,
Yeah.
where like things just like I wouldn't even say escalate. Things just happen in ways that it's just like not natural about how like
Yes.
things would normally happen.
Yes. And I gotta say too, like I I don't know why they chose him getting shot. Like, and later we find out that he didn't die, right? Spoilers. Um but like why was he killed? Like
It's
was
not
that
even
the
important to the
only
movie.
like why was that the only way to like raise the stakes of like Jason's escape out of that store, or they just fridged him for no reason. He gets shot and he just hands the staff, which okay, we should probably talk about the staff for a second, but he hands the staff to Jason and he's like, "Go, get out of here." And then like not you like convince me that 2 seconds later Jason gives a fuck about Hop getting shot. There's like no
Yeah.
emotional stakes whatsoever. They literally fridge him and then it's done. It's yeah, it's weird. It's bad. Okay, on do you want to explain the staff situation? What is this
Okay, so
staff?
so at the beginning of the earlier in the movie, while Jason's at the store checking out DVDs or whatever, he like goes into the storeroom and like he sees the staff and Hop is like, this is like an ancient magical staff that's like waiting to be returned to its owner, and like it's been passed down until a certain someone finds it so that that person can then bring it to the person who needs it. Very complicated, I guess. Very complicated mail delivery service is essentially what it is.
Yes, yes. Amazon Prime but but like not simple.
um, so yeah, so fast forward in the movie, Hop gets shot and like with his dying breath, he like grabs the staff and just like gives it to Jason. Just like, you gotta go find the guy who is supposed to be destined to bring the staff to the other guy who needs it. So like this is our 3-man delivery service thing here going on.
It's so jarring.
So Jason takes the staff and he just like bolts out of there onto the roof, I guess.
Mhm.
Wait, if I think about it, it's not gonna make sense. But he's on the ground floor, right? Like, how,
Mhm.
how did the scene end up with him on the roof?
You don't question it.
Okay, so he's on the roof.
If
The
you
bullies
question
are
it.
like, I gotta kill you because like we don't let witnesses here because I just shot a dude for no good reason. Um, so he's about to kill Jason. And then Jason just falls off the building. I guess the staff pushes him off the building or something,
Yeah.
right?
Which is just like, what the fuck?
And then that's when the movie starts proper, right?
Yeah.
A lot of like weirdness to get here, but that's when the movie starts proper.
So with all of that in mind, I'm going to read An's comments for this part of the movie. So remember what he just described, and let's get into it. So as the bullies are fighting Jason, An says, "Okay, very solid kick for a dude bullying another kid for kung fu. IDK, I know this is supposed to be dramatic, but I low-key can't take it seriously. Oh, he's dead." Is this a fucking time travel movie now? So yeah. The deadpan like, "Oh, enter space, he's dead" is the funniest like textual comedic timing I've ever seen. Okay, so yeah, so Jason Jason gets pushed off the roof by the staff. Like he's holding onto the staff and the staff's like pushing him backwards. He falls off the roof and then he like right as he hits the ground, he gets like transported back to like ancient China. And so yeah, the Forbidden Kingdom is an isekai movie. Bet you weren't expecting that.
Is this time travel or better yet, isekai?
Yeah. I bet you weren't expecting that. Super jarring, super crazy. And then he's like kind of stumbling around a little bit. He's like, I don't know where I am. Can somebody tell me where I am? And then boom, Jackie Chan.
Yeah, I think that's very accurate. That's actually that's probably what was written in the script. Frankly, I'm pretty sure if you found the script, it would just be like confused white dude, boom Jackie Chan,
Boom, Jackie Chan.
movie starts proper.
Oh God, no, yeah. So very funny. And Jackie Chan, comes in. He's like sipping on some wine from his little like flask thing, Chinese flask thing, and then he just like rips ass. Like, wait, that's not the right term for. Rips ass is farting. He kicks ass. He kicks. I'm so sorry. He kicks ass. And yeah, no, he just comes in swinging, and he's like really drunk, but the fight choreography like makes it seem like he's like drunk,
He's doing his
but
whole
he's
drunken
still
fist like shtick, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really good. And on I actually posted this on my story today because it is hilarious. But On said, okay, the choreography is pretty dope with the drunk guy. Wait, that's Jackie Chan, lol. Which is very, like, that's so good. It's so funny. It really is like boom Jackie Chan for sure. Um, how I mean, you knew that Jackie Chan was going to be in it, but how did you feel about his character introduction?
Uh, his character introduction was pretty cool. Like it's him like fighting all or so like Jason drops into the world. They're being like he's like in the middle of like a raid, right? And then Jackie Chan comes in and he just starts throwing down. And this is like our first real moment of like choreography in the movie, right? There was a little bit of it at the beginning in the intro, but like it wasn't that impressive. And then we get here, and then Jackie Chan's doing his old like drunken fist thing, and he's like really going to town. It was really fun, right? And then like just, I don't know why it took me so long to figure out it was Jackie Chan, but like of course the guy doing like crazy martial arts. It has to either be Jackie Chan or Jet Li. Come on.
Yeah, no, and it's very well done. I will say that as ridiculous as this movie does get, and as like kind of wonky as the CGI is and everything, like they put in the work to make some really good fight choreography
Yeah,
for this
the
one.
fight choreography is S tier, 100%. Like I could straight up just watch this movie just for the like I would YouTube like the fight clips, and still have a good time. Like they're
Yeah,
genuinely that good.
yeah, it's very fun just right off the bat. So they meet, and Jason, and then they just like arrive at a tavern. That's like the next scene.
Yeah.
Um, and you had something to say about the weird like language thing going on here. So, basically, like, Jackie Chan. His character's name is Lu Yan, but we'll probably call him Jackie Chan throughout the whole thing. Just like
I
we
mean,
did
like
with
that's what
Michelle
this
Yeoh.
movie's selling you, right? This movie's selling you Jackie Chan and Jet Li. Like, I don't even think they give Jet Li's character a name,
They
right?
don't.
Because like, they're really just here for Jackie Chan and Jet Li.
Yeah, basically. I mean, he's this Jet Li's like the silent monk, but nobody really ever calls him like by his name, I guess. And there is also a reason that he doesn't have a name.
True.
But
We
that's
can
kind
get
of a
that later.
spoiler, so we'll get to that later. But yeah, at one point, like Jackie Chan's like talking at Jason, and Jason's like, "I don't understand what you're saying," and then all of a sudden Jackie Chan's like, "That's because you're not listening," and then so all of a sudden it's like, does Jason understand Chinese or like what's going on? And you had a bone to pick with this, so I'd love to hear what you had to say about it.
I wouldn't say I had a bone to pick with it. I just thought it was like probably like the weirdest way to just like say that he understands Chinese now. Because like, frankly, if you just had this dude drop in here and like he just like understood the language, like it doesn't make sense. But also, if you don't draw attention to it, I won't think about it too much,
Yeah.
right? But then this movie does this really weird move. It's like I gotta explain it. I gotta explain this like fantasy concept now. So they tried to explain it, but it's like the weirdest explanation. It's just like Jackie Chan just says, "You're just not listening." Right, like he's like speaking Chinese, the Jason's not understanding, and then suddenly in English, Jackie Chan says, "You were not just you just weren't listening." So
Yeah.
it's like if you're gonna go for an explanation,
Yeah.
don't just hand wave it like that. Like either don't say anything and I'll accept it, or like give a good explanation. This is
Yeah,
the
no.
weirdest in between.
It's kind of, yeah, it's a pretty strange like switch up, I guess. And you are right. Like the fact that it draws attention to it specifically means that they were like trying to do something with it, but I don't really think it did the thing that they wanted it to do. It just made it a
Yeah,
little
like
bit more confusing.
I'm totally down for suspension of disbelief. If they didn't say anything, I would have just accepted it. Like
Yeah.
it would not have mattered to me. But
Yeah.
like also that creates some really weird implications later for the movie because it's just implying that like all the it implies that all the characters are still speaking Chinese. Now Jason just understands Chinese, right? And once I get to other characters, I'll really have a bone to pick
Yeah. Yeah.
with
It's
how
weird.
this concept with what this concept implies.
Yeah. Yeah. Um Yeah, I think it's like a weird bit of like lamp shading, like unnecessary lamp shading, where they were like, should we explain why? And then like in the explanation, it just gets like weirder, I guess. But yeah, no, you're right. I think that this was like it's not necessarily something that I noticed, I guess, like the first time that I watched it, but hearing you mention it and like thinking about it more, it was definitely kind of weird that they like put a hat on that when they really didn't need to. Like there's plenty of other like kung fu movies, especially ones that are like made in America where like
No,
all
no,
the
no. We're not
people.
comparing this to a kung fu movie, Yeti. We're comparing this to an isekai, and there are plenty of other isekai. You just drop the character in the world, and they know the language. Okay.
Okay, yes, yes, yes. You're right. You're right. You're right. Um So yeah, they're in the tavern now, and intense exposition is intense. um,
Yeah, I
and
kind of glossed over real hard. It's just like something about like there was a monkey king. Was he a king? I don't know. He was a monkey dude. He crashes the banquet of immortality where like the immortals are like sipping their immortal juice, and like he's just like messing shit up. And the Jade Emperor dude, he's like okay, so like Jade Warlord's really like really not cool about it. Jade Warlord just like fuck this guy, I want to kill him. And Jade Emperor's like, dude, this dude's funny. Like just give him like an elixir and then be on with your day. And then he like yeets out of there because I guess he's just like gonna like I don't know. Okay, I don't remember. Him and his wife just like suddenly are just like, I'm not gonna be here anymore.
they begin their 500 years meditation on get it right.
You're right. Okay. And he's like, Jade Warlord, don't touch the monkey dude. Just let him be. He's chill. And then he just yeets out of there and just meditates for 500 years, and he's gone. And that's not even the end of the exposition. We're still going. We're still going. We're still going. And then Jade Warlord, like, fast forward a bit of time, he's like, I don't really like this Monkey King dude, right? And then he decides to like challenge Monkey King to a fight. And okay. Tangent for a second. Why is Jade Warlord like so hell bent on fighting the monkey dude, right? Because like the monkey dude up to this point has only demonstrated that like he is a jokester. He is not meant to be taken seriously, right? So like getting so riled up about this dude just makes you look like really lame. And like,
Yeah,
you know, and like
yeah.
even if you okay, here's what I'm thinking in my head, right? Like you challenge monkey dude, right? And it's one of two outcomes. You either win the
Challenge.
fight and now everyone's looking at you like, dude, you just beat up a monkey, like what the fuck? Like you're not that cool. Or you lose to the monkey and now you lost to the monkey. Right? Like he
Yes.
gains nothing from challenging this fight, but he's so intent on it.
Yeah, no, he's really. I honestly also like if he hadn't fought the Monkey King, it would have saved him like a whole lot of trouble later. I feel like too. Like I there was
Yeah.
really no reason for him to do it. I mean, other than like some easy villainy, right? And like sometimes you just need to make the villain do stupid things so that you can get on with the rest of the story. But
That's
I
what
don't think that like
I think it's just a commentary on the human condition to need to just do easy villainy.
that is true.
Right?
I
It's a
will
little bit in all of us to just
yeah.
need to do some, just fight some
Yes,
monkeys.
fight some
Okay.
monkeys and fuck some shit up. I will also say that, like, in terms of character motivations, I think that's something that this movie is just generally lacking. Like, all of the characters don't really have a reason to be doing anything that they're doing, which is why I think this movie does suffer a lot. But I kind of want to draw attention to that with, like, Sparrow in particular. Um,
Mm-hmm.
who I feel like the most bones that I have to pick with how this movie did certain things is with their depiction of Sparrow and like the kind
Me
of
too.
character that she is. Um Personally, as a self-identified feminist, I just can't stand for this. So, no, it's just frustrating, but I mean, like the villain is not safe from this writing mishap, right? Like all the characters are confusing in terms of like why are you doing this? Why are you here? Why do you care? The movie doesn't really take a lot of time to answer any of those questions.
Honestly, I'm fine with like the villain just being evil for being evil. He's so campy and it's great,
It
right?
is
What
his
what
glitter
I'm
eyeshadow.
yeah. What I'm just kind of like about, like, if you're like this like evil dude who's like trying to be taken seriously, like fighting the monkey is just like so lame. Like it just makes you look like such a loser.
This is
Right?
true.
Win or lose, you just look like a loser, right? Whereas like if they just like, I get it's to move the plot forward, but like if you wanted just to be like a campy evil villain, like he didn't have to fight the monkey. He really didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything
And
else about his character gets better from this point on, frankly.
yes, yeah. Yeah. He's a weird guy. Really, nothing he does makes a lot of sense, but like, try not to think too much about it, you know? Just, you know, move on.
Honestly, I wasn't even thinking about it too hard. It's just like my gut reaction was just like, dude, you look like such a loser for fighting the monkey. Don't do it. For your own sake, man. I'm
You
watching
look
out for you here.
so
Don't fight the
lame.
monkey.
You look so lame right now. Just stop it. Just walk away. No, I totally get it. And yeah, I would agree. Okay, so the villain is introduced, and he's introduced as the guy who basically was the reason why the Monkey King lost his staff in the first place. And so he was basically like the reason that the whole sort of adventure has started. And because of him, the Monkey King was also turned into stone, which is like one of his weird nebulous villain powers that he can turn things into stone. And so, yeah, so the only way to unstone the Monkey King is to bring him back his staff. And so that's the journey that Jason now has to embark on, is getting the staff back to its rightful owner, which is the mission that old Hop gave him before he dies from getting shot. Um, and so, more on commentary. Uh, this dude really thinks fighting a monkey gonna make him look cool. If he gets humiliated, this is 100% his fault. Jade Warlord is trying way too hard with his magic shit, lol. Um, and yeah. I just love it. I love your commentary on this one. It's really funny.
You
But
can tell how worked
also
up I was about this whole thing because we just spent it. I talked about it then. I just spent a whole like 5 minutes talking about it. Like this shit bothered me so much for no good reason.
oh my goodness. I will also say, like, we were talking about fight choreography. This fight choreography is pretty cool too. And
Mhm.
this is the scene that I was talking about with the music that has, like, you know, that dynamic where whenever the Monkey King will do something, the flutes will do like this, you know, really cool kind of playful melody in the background, and then when it's the warlord's turn, there's like deep brass, like brr, and then yeah, it was a cool scene to watch.
It was very cool. Your reenactment of it was spot
My
on.
little brr.
I felt it in my bones. You guys don't have to watch the movie now because yeah,
Yeah,
you got it for you
sample
right
my voice right now and put it in a song. Like I
there. Bet.
Okay, so this is how the journey is like starting, and it's cool.
This was all exposition, by
Um
the way. Like this is Jackie Chan talking to Jason in the tavern. All this was exposition. If it felt like we were taking a long time talking about it in the podcast, it's because it felt that long in the movie.
yeah. Yep.
Okay, so they're in the tavern. They had the conversation, right? And then suddenly a bunch of Jade warlords, like men, like walk into the tavern, right? And like
Mm-hmm.
they want the staff, and now we know why they want the staff, so they're gonna throw down now.
Yeah.
And this fight was actually really fun too. uh, I think this is like the first time we really get like a full like extended fight with like a bunch of people going on, and it was like really fun going throughout the tavern. I remember last time we were talking about Crouching Tiger. We talked about how like fun the tavern fight was in that movie because like it took over like it was such a like large space and they used the setting really well, right?
Yes.
Just to have fun with it. I think this is a lot of the
Yes.
same thing, you know, like we got a really big
Yes.
space
Yes.
and it allows for a lot of like variety in the fight. And like as for like one of the first fights, just to be fun and like with no stakes,
Mm-hmm.
it is that, you know, it's just a fun
Yeah.
like lower stakes fight.
Yeah. Um, I will also say something that I thought was cute. We keep referencing Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And the movie itself actually references Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Hmm.
I totally forgot to mention this when we were actually talking about it when we were at that place in the recap, but old Hop at one point says like crouching tiger spanking monkey. And it's totally a reference to that movie, but I thought that was funny. Cuz like I just think that specifically there are a lot of similarities, and while like that's obvious because I think Crouching Tiger Hidden Dragon is like a very quintessential wuxia movie, like even the timing of the bar fight, like the tavern fight too,
Hmm.
and the way that it sort of starts happening is it's very reminiscent of the scene in Crouching Tiger where oh my god, I forgot her name already, but the main heroine, right, where
Jen.
she's like fighting her way, Jen, there we go, where she's like fighting her way through the tavern, like that. It's very reminiscent of that, just on not even just in like it's just a tavern fight, like the way that Jackie Chan specifically, I think, fights that fight is very similar to the way that like she did because it's like borderline comedic type thing. Yeah, so
Also, like at the
um
end of this fight, they're like jumping through the roofs on the wires and stuff like that. So you got like
yeah.
the really springy thing that like Crouching
Yes.
Tiger was doing. Uh,
Yes.
you know, like something about this movie I really love is like it wears its inspirations on its sleeves. Like it's not doing any of this.
Yes.
It's doing this stuff out of like love. Like you know, like you can only make fun of something this successfully because you love it enough to like you
Yeah.
know
Yeah,
riff on kind
exactly.
of like the weirdness of it.
Exactly. Yeah. So they fight their way to the bar, and then right at the end, when Jason's kind of on the ropes, like he's like hanging from like a balcony or something, a young woman comes in and shoots some knives at his opponents and saves his life. And this is where we meet Golden Sparrow, our third ish main character, I guess.
I think that's a very good description, third ish, because like I feel like they're trying to make her main character, but they give her nothing to do. So
Yeah.
bad.
It is not an exaggeration to say that Golden Sparrow spends 90% of her on screen time playing a guitar. Like, that's all she does. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like setting up exposition. Or it's like 90%
Or
playing
having
music and
flashbacks.
then like
Like,
yeah, 10% flashback exposition. Like
yeah.
she's a she's she's not doing great here. Oh,
She's
okay, no.
very.
Like 9% flashback, 1% throwing knives or
Yes.
hair thingies.
Yes. I think that this is not her fault. I think that she could be a compelling movie. Compare a compelling character in any other movie. But she is sidelined a lot, and honestly, like her backstory just doesn't have a lot to do with like the actual plot, and so
It does in a way. It's like it does in a way in like a way that's very utility based. Like it does not feel natural at all. It's like we really want to hit this moment later, so we have to have someone say this now. Right.
yeah. Which like you should never just use a character for exposition or for like a character should never just be like a story beat, you know? Because everybody's going to know if there's story beat because that's what characters that are designed to be story beats do. Like if you flesh out a character, they can't just be a story beat, right? But she tends to kind of get sidelined into doing that a lot because the main plot has nothing to do with her backstory. And so what she ends up being relegated to do most of the time is fight other people's fights for them,
Or play
or
music.
yeah, apparently play music and give exposition. And I would
Or
like
attempt to be a love interest. Attempt.
or oh
The operative
god.
word is attempt.
I was gonna bring this up a little bit later, but yeah, no, she is definitely slotted into this weird, like, well, we have to give our main protagonist like a person to pine after, and so she just kind of becomes that for no fucking reason because those actors did not have any fucking chemistry whatsoever, and their lines are dry as hell.
Yeah.
So yeah, did not work. I think the way that they wanted it to, for sure.
Even for camp, it wasn't good camp either. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't even like so like ridiculous that like people were having fun with it. It literally was just forced. It
Yeah.
just not have been in there.
Yeah, bad. I keep forgetting to put in my references to the actual Journey to the West story, so let me catch up real quick and do that.
Okay.
So Jackie Chan's character, his name is Lu Yan, who is actually a real historical character who is said to have lived 220 years. He was elevated to the status of an immortal by Chinese Taoists, and he's often depicted as a traveling monk who carries a sword that is like a dispel demons sword, which is so fucking cool. And very much reflected in the way that he's portrayed in this movie, which I thought was really cool. I think that it's cool that they use like a quote unquote real historical character from like Chinese history, because I definitely learned something new when I read about that. So that was cool for sure. So the fight between the warlord and Sun Wukong, that is somewhat canon because the way that the Journey to the West kind of begins as well is it didn't just start with Tripitaka. It starts really with Sun Wukong. He was very chaotic. He was definitely a chaotic character, and he basically fought his way through the heavens. He like slaughtered the entire Jade army, made a lot of problems for the Jade Emperor as well, which is not as much reflected in this movie, I don't think. But when he gets turned into a statue, a stone monkey, that is actually kind of canon, because the original myth of the Monkey King is that he is a stone monkey who gets the winds of yin and yang blown upon him, I think, at some point, and then he turns into a real monkey who is like immortal. And I thought that was really cool because I think that that's like a interesting way to like subvert that myth, is that like he gets turned into a statue, like he existed at one point, then got turned into a statue by somebody else and like needs to be unturned into a statue. Like it's like a weird way to play with the canon of the myth. But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's like a neat way to have like your own like take on it, you know?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. And so yeah, that's yeah. I'm
is
gonna
Golden
try and
Sparrow anything have to do with or is she
so
just like, or is she literally just here to be a love interest?
yeah, that's what I was gonna get a little bit more into that later, but yeah, there isn't really like a back and forth between the myth and her character specifically. So it's kind of hard to like slot her in with any of the characters from the actual Journey to the West like story. You could make the argument that she's either supposed to be Pig or the YouTube channel that I watched that has all of the information on the Journey to the West that I watched to research this called him Sandy, but he's like a demon, like a river demon. But I don't think that like either of those characters mesh well with like her characterization at all. And Pigsy is like he's like a shape-shifting demon whose like main default character setting is like a demon pig. So I don't think that like
That's what I got it. Shape-shifting demon, shape-shifts into a sparrow. Congratulations.
Ooh, there we go. Yeah, you got it. You locked it down. No. Yeah, and so this is why like I'm frustrated a lot by her character because I feel like there was a lot of stuff that they had to mess around with from the original myth that they could have like made her character into, but they actively chose not to because they were like, "Oh, pretty girl need both parents dead and also the love interest to main character," and that was like the extent of her characterization in the movie. So that was frustrating for sure, but
All right,
Golden Sparrow,
so
ladies and gentlemen.
we've met Golden Sparrow. She like killed a bunch of dudes, got them out of there. No, she killed two dudes, and then got them out of there. And then like
Joins
we
the
like
journey.
she joins the journey. We flash forward, and they're just like traveling, and they're trying to figure out what to do. And like I'm gonna like tangent for a second to like get to a really major gripe about accents in this movie.
Uh-huh.
But like, okay, Golden Sparrow has this like really weird stereotypical like Asian accent, and like it's one thing for her to have an accent that like makes sense on like a technical level because like if you're gonna have like native like Asian Asian like speaking people like speak English, like they're gonna have accents. That's fine, but like that in itself is fine. That's like not a problem. But like two things that I think really make it extremely weird is that one, these characters are like supposed to be like still speaking Chinese, like I mentioned earlier with like Jackie Chan saying just like you're not listening enough, which implies that he's still speaking Chinese. Jason just knows Chinese now. So like any dialogue that's happening is like under the presumption that it's in Chinese, right? Which is like fine with the accents, like that doesn't bother me. But the really weird thing is like how they wrote her dialogue to be this like really weird like third person bad English type thing going on, right? And like
Yup.
there's like a streak in Hollywood of like, or not in Hollywood, but like just like pop culture throughout history of like Asian women being like sexualized and infantilized. Am I saying that right?
Infantilized.
Infantilized, right? And
Yes.
like I feel like that's kind of the only explanation for like this writing choice here,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
she is supposed to be a native speaker, so she should be like speaking. So the English that she's speaking should be like fine,
Yeah.
it should just like it shouldn't sound. She shouldn't be like speaking the third person and like skipping words and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's doesn't make sense because like
Yeah.
she's not actually speaking English, right?
Yes. And I will say that I think that they tried to like subvert that at the very end of the movie because like right when she, spoiler alert, she dies in the arms of our protagonist, she finally stops referring to herself in the third person, which is just such a weird fucking creative choice that I do not even know where to start with. But like, no, you're right, and I get that a lot from her character of this very like demure, like and there's a part where she's talking to Jet Li's character too, and he's like, "You're just a child," and she's like, "No, I'm a woman." And her whole thing is like, "I want vengeance for my dead parents and everything," but that's very like, it's very on the nose. I feel like all of her character interactions with everybody is her like either again like you said like being infantilized or being infantilized by like the actual writers themselves
And being
and
infantilized
makes
as the love interest of the movie,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah, which is just like what the hell is going on there?
it's it's
Yeah.
problematic, kind of frustrating, makes me really annoyed with like this character, especially when it's like the only thing this character has going for them.
Yeah.
Like the only thing this character's doing is exposition and like being a love interest, right? And you're gonna be a love interest, don't be a problematic love interest.
Yeah, no, very much so. So,
I I
yeah.
will to I guess give an opposing argument, say that like she is supposed to be like a countryside like orphan. So I guess maybe like she wasn't like properly educated, but also you didn't have to write her that way.
Yeah.
These are all conscious choices that you made to make her speak this way. Like
Yep.
it might make sense for the character, but you also didn't have to write the character that way.
Yep. It's a choice. It's a choice.
It's a
It's a
choice.
choice.
Someone made a decision.
Yeah. So, okay. So Golden Sparrow, and we will pick our bones with her a little bit more later as well. But then we meet the Silent Monk, who is played by Jet Li, icon, love
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Um, and he has a really sick fight with Lu Yan, and they basically end on a
No, no, no,
truce.
no, no. Jet Li had a fight with Jackie Chan. That's what this movie was leading up to. Okay. No, no, their characters weren't fighting here. It was the actors fighting because
This
that's
is
that's the price of admission here.
this is true. This is very true. I have made a grave mistake. No, you're correct. Is Jackie Chan and Jet Li going fucking ham on each other in a cave? And they basically end on a truce because the silent monk reveals that he's been searching for like the staff traveler, and like I've been trying to get the staff back to the Monkey King, and then when it's revealed it's Jason, they just like stop fighting. Um and
I, lo-
so yeah.
I love at that
Jet Li's
moment
part
where
of the group.
I love at that moment where like he's like, I've been looking for the secret of the staff. He's trying to bring the staff to the guy who's supposed to bring the staff to the Monkey King, right? And Jackie Chan's like, you found him, and he just looks at Jason, right? And like you just see it in his eyes. It's like, the white guy, really? like
Yup.
like I love how this movie is like totally down to acknowledge that like the presence of this like white dude in this movie makes no sense either.
Yup.
Like they
And
have a good laugh about it
it's
several times in this movie.
yeah, no, they know that they're being like weird and facetious. But yeah, so so that happens, and it's honestly a really like cute scene in a way too, because like you know that Jet Li and Jackie Chan are gonna be like the bickering besties for the rest of the movie, and you're just like pumped for that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but so now now that Jason has two kung fu master teachers, he has like started his kung fu training to like bring the staff back and like defeat the Jade Warlord, right? Also, I and this was a thing in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon as well, but I did not know that like monks were supposed to be like badass warriors who knew martial arts super well and like could open a can of kick ass just like whenever. But that's a thing in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon too. Like the
Hmm.
main like hero, I guess you could call him, is like he's a monk. Like he took a vow of silence, and but he was also like a warrior, and then he was like on his journey to enlightenment, but then like never actually made it or something. And I'm like, I
Hmm.
wonder when the characterization of monks went from like warrior to, and like you see this in like Lu Yan as well. Um, like I said, like he was elevated to the status of an immortal by Chinese Taoists, right? But he's depicted carrying a demon killing sword. Like, since when did monks, particularly like Asian monks, right, um, get sort of relegated to this like really docile, very like peaceful, non-violent under any circumstances kind of characterization? Because I think that's just, first of all, I think it's boring, but second of all, I think it's interesting that that happened at some point, and I would love to like hear your thoughts on that and if you know anything about it.
If I recall correctly, and like maybe we'll have to like revisit it next episode after we read more about it. But if I recall correctly, like the monks, like the Shaolin monks, um, one had a like quite a bit of time on their hands because like the way the lifestyle, and like we can talk more about that later. But like one, they had a lot of time on their hands, and two, like they were under a lot of like pressure throughout history of like invading peoples, right? Because like Shaolin monks or monks in general like kind of seem like easy targets to go after when you're like trying to sack places. The combination of those two things meant like as like that they kind of needed to develop like modes for like self defense, right? Which is why a lot of them ended up developing like or not developing but like practicing and like progressing like traditional like martial arts in those areas, and like that's why a lot of like the more traditional like Asian martial arts that you're looking at, especially coming from like the China, like Vietnam, Thailand region,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of them have um roots like in monasteries and things like that, because a lot of them were developed there as like their form of self-defense
Mm-hmm.
for like invading peoples, because
Mm-hmm.
during that time you get invaded all the time.
Yeah, for sure. No, I yeah. That's that's interesting. That makes sense. That
Ah,
yes.
there was a
Yes.
time I had done martial arts in the past, so there was a time where I knew this better, where I could speak more confidently about the history of this type of
That's
thing.
okay. That's okay.
That
You
is
don't
not
have to know
now.
everything. I honestly like, I like talking about things that I don't have much of a metric for, because I like to see how correct my assumptions are about certain things. Like I'll be like, why did this happen in history? And I'll be like, I'll maybe like this and this reason, and then I'll go and actually do the research and see if I was correct or not. But yeah, like I would love to look more into this like weird character switch of monks being characterized, particularly also like in the media too, of like badass warriors to like peacekeepers and all that good stuff. But I'm getting off topic a little bit. Did
We'll
you
do a
have any
bit of a
last things
follow
you
up.
wanted to say? Yeah, we'll do a bit of a follow up for sure. And then silver hair, long hair whip girl is introduced. Uh,
Yeah, I love
uh,
her. She's so campy. It's so great.
on just says, I love the whip chick. Her dialogue is so bad. It's very
So
true.
I think this is when like it really set in for me that like this movie is just camp, because like
Oh,
so
it's
much at the
just camp.
beginning, yeah, so much at the beginning is like in this weird space of just kind of like not great or really cool kung fu fights, right? Or like really great choreography, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
up to this point I was like, this movie is just like a poorly written movie with that serves having good fights. And then like they introduce this villain and I'm like, no, this movie's camp. this is
Yeah.
this can be so much more fun than I initially thought we were going to be having.
Yeah, no. And she is, so her real name is Ni Chang, and she is a witch who is, so I may have read this wrong, or I may have like seen it wrong in the subtitles, or maybe it was just a mistake, but like basically the Jade Warlord is like, bring me the witch who runs with the wolves. And then for the rest of the movie, she has like eagle characteristics. Like every time she fights, like an eagle caws in the background, and I'm like, man, I thought you said wolves. Like, what's going on? Again,
Nothing
I
about
could
her
be
says
wrong.
wolves.
I know I could be wrong, but I think that's what happened, and I was just kind of confused for it. But no, she is just fascinating. Love her and very attractive, even though her wig is absolutely horrendous. Um, but yeah, she's really cool. Our first like female character in comparison to Sparrow, which is, this is something that I want to spend some time talking about, because I had some things to say about the comparison between these two ladies.
Go for
Um,
it.
yeah, so I have found often that in general, female villains, particularly like this one, that have magical capabilities or are supposed to be martial artists in some way, have this weird, like, I hate men kind of attitude. And that's not bad by any means, but it feels like this kind of writing is like what I said in my notes specifically, which is not the most eloquent way of putting it, but I said it feels like feminism is only palatable when it's a woman you're actively rooting against. And I think that that is kind of the point, but I want to like elaborate more on it. It feels like
Hmm.
when dudes, right, write a woman who is okay with saying things like men are all liars, or like literally her second line is men always lie.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
gets introduced as a character, and her second line is men always lie. And I was like, a little bit on the nose, don't you think? But
I remember hearing that, and my first reaction was, "This is what a man thinks feminism is."
Yes, no, and that's what I'm saying, is that I think that like when guys write female antagonists, a lot of times that's the only way that they're comfortable writing things like men always lie, or like men, like I hate men, and all this stuff, you know. And especially because this is highlighted very much by the fact that like Ni Chang is the only other female character other than Sparrow, who has been, again, like she's very docile, she presents as like a very, you know, young, demure, like Ni Chang is a witch, and she's like hot and everything, but also like she has gray hair. That's like her whole thing, is that she has like silver hair. And so you can take the iconography of like having a young woman with like black hair, you know, still in her prime, to like a witch with silver hair, like she's like, you know, she's not an old actress, but that's like a very clear, like that's like iconography of like an older woman, right? Is like having all
Hmm.
gray
Hmm.
hair. And so there's these like little things that I feel like I picked up on with Ni Chang's character, especially in comparison with Sparrow, that I felt like was just such clear markers of like what writers are comfortable doing with female antagonists versus like female protagonists, and what female antagonists can do to be quote unquote unpalatable, and what like female heroes have to do to be palatable for like a wider audience, right? Like it's very clear that when you have a female antagonist, she can really say whatever, do whatever, but she has to have very other specific characteristics, right? Whereas like
Hmm.
the female hero, she has to be like the picture of divine femininity, or else it's not gonna really work. At least from like most male writers, I feel like this is the truth. But yeah, I don't know if you notice any of those things, but I yeah, you're exactly right. Like when she says like all men are liars, I'm like, this is what men think feminism is. But yeah. Also, it's definitely at this point where Sparrow speaking in the third person gets fucking weird.
Yeah, especially with like directly like juxtaposed to this character. Also, something weird about this character too. I think what you said is much more profound, but I'm also gonna say something that I think was really weird. Is that like this character like switches in the movie between speaking Chinese and English, and like when she's not around Jason, she speaks Chinese, but when she's around Jason, she speaks English. But I thought early in the movie we had established that everyone was speaking Chinese, and it's just that Jason understands English. So like,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on with this writing? I don't
Yeah.
understand. uh,
It is a fucking anomaly, is what's happening. It's yeah, it's so weird. She's
Sorry, I
such
got
a weird
distracted.
character. No,
But
you're
like
totally good.
what you asked me like what did I think about it? And like I didn't catch what I didn't really catch like what you were talking about with like how like the only way like feminism in this movie was like portrayed to be palpable was by putting it in the villain, and like giving no such like treatment to the quote unquote female lead
Yup.
of the movie. And I think that's really interesting, and I think that really speaks to something about like the movie as a whole. At the end, I want to talk about why I think this movie has the problems that it has. So I'll kind of say that for the end. But I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the problems, like I think this is very related to kind of all the problems that we've been like pointing out with this movie.
Yeah.
Um,
And
before
so
we keep
Nietzsche is
going though,
introduced. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I want to like scramble back for a second and like get to the point where so they're doing like their whole training thing, right? And then like
Yeah.
suddenly the scene cuts, right? And now we're like we're at like a little hut, and then there's like these two hanged dudes, right?
Oh
And they're
yeah.
like, oh, this is the tyranny of the Jade Warlord. So like we had a really fun training thing, and then suddenly we're talking about the tyranny of the Jade Warlord, right? And
Yes.
like it's supposed to be really dramatic and all that, and then Golden Sparrow starts like expositioning like out of nowhere. She's just like,
Yeah, yeah, I
I'm an
forgot about
orphan
this.
and
I
my
forgot
parents were
about
killed.
this.
And then we get a flashback about how like her mom like was like lowering her into a well, and she's like, then my mom got shot by an arrow, and I was like, you're in a well, how did you know your mom got shot by an arrow? and then and then We come back and she's like, and this is why I'm going to kill the Jade Warlord with this. And then out she pulls like a hair stick out of her
Hair
hair, and she's
stick.
like, this is the only thing that can kill an immortal. So earlier in the movie, it was like the reason why the monkey got turned into stone is because you can't kill an immortal; you can only turn him to stone. Except now, except now,
Yeah.
the only thing that can kill an immortal is this hair stick that she has, and we don't know how she got it. Right? Okay, and then she
Yeah.
tells a story, and then the best thing happens. The son, Jet Li walks up to her, and he's like, "Be careful, vengeance rebounds." In my notes, I'm literally like, yeah, vengeance rebounds. If she gets killed when she throws this thing and it rebounds and kills her, oh great! Please tell me that's what's gonna happen. Please, vengeance rebounds, guys. Vengeance rebounds.
It's so on the nose that it's funny, but it's also not funny. Like it's a whole
I can't
but
tell if this is camp or just bad writing.
it's it's a little bit both. No, I also I totally forgot to like talk about this, but yeah, like Golden Sparrow's backstory is really out of place in the pacing of the movie. Like even you said this, you said like this random spot for Golden Sparrow's backstory is oddly placed. Like they were training a second ago and she hadn't been doing anything, and now we're getting into her backstory. Man, the dialogue is kind of bad. Like that is those like 5 lines like epitomize this entire interaction between Golden Sparrow and like the other warriors that she's been traveling with for like I would assume at least a couple of weeks now, because at this point Jason is like pretty prolific at doing martial arts. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's yeah, it's weird. So, yeah, something else that I did want to say is that like Golden Sparrow's backstory in particular is supposed to be like one of the first emotionally vulnerable moments that she has, and I think the way that they paced it and placed it makes us more uncomfortable and makes us also as an audience be like, "Oh my god, like why does this even matter at this point?" And that's not how you want to do a backstory. You should never make a backstory like if your audience is like reacting that way to something, which I would assume you kind of did as well, considering that you did like make a comment about like the oddly paced and like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they were like, we were just in the middle of training a second ago, like why is this happening, right? Like you should never have your audience asking those questions, because at the end of the day what that's going to do is it's going to make us want to be out of that story beat faster. And if that's the only emotionally vulnerable moment she's had in the movie up till then you did it wrong, right? This it's wrong. You failed, and they failed at this. They failed at making her a compelling enough character where we were like, yes, I care enough about you that I want to like know why you're on this journey. Like at this point she's been on the journey for weeks. You know,
Yeah.
like we don't like you're here now and you've been here for a while. At this point in the movie, probably like 30, like 15, 30 minutes. Like we know you're here. We don't really need at this point like a more of a reason for you to be here. Like we have accepted that you are here.
Yeah.
And
And she's honestly probably the least interesting character as far as like who I want a backstory from at this point.
which like that's not her fault, because I do think that like a simple like orphan girl having this like ambition to kill the Jade Warlord is like honestly makes more sense than fucking Jason being the fucking staff warrior. Like, what the fuck? Like, I think her
You just
character motivation makes way more sense, but the way that they wrote it and the way that they did it and, like, put everything together just did not work. It's
did not.
bad. They did it badly, period.
Also, something to note about like the emotional vulnerability. I think you're really right here. That this was like kind of jarringly her like moment to be emotionally vulnerable, even though like we barely got anything of her before this. Is that
Yeah.
like they also use it as like the cue for like to try to start pushing some romance here. You know, like she's emotionally vulnerable, so Jason's like trying to
Don't
comfort her,
freaking
and it's
remind
like, why are you
me.
if you guys listen to the podcast, you already kind of know that like I kind of have a bone to pick with like making everything romantic, because like I think it kind of sends the wrong message, right? Where it's like people
Yeah.
should probably like learn sometimes the solution to your problem is like figuring out how to be alone, and that's a good thing.
And also, like, the solution to all your problems is not kissing. Like,
Yeah, it's not.
Like, you don't need a girlfriend, right? Like, why does every journey have to end that way? Like, why does every protagonist need like some girl from the world that he's gone into, like in the isekai, right? Like, why does he need somebody to fall for him? Like, also like Jackie Chan is there. Like, Jet Li is there. You're telling me that this girl chose fucking Jason Tripatakis over Jet Li and Jackie Chan? Nope. Nope. No. Nope. That's the biggest plot hole in this whole fucking movie, okay? Like, I don't give a fuck. That is ridiculous. And I know that I know that Jackie Chan is dressed to look like a hobo, and I know that Jet Li doesn't have any hair. I don't give a fuck. Like, you're telling me that this girl chose fucking Jason over... No.
Okay,
No.
I'm gonna cut this out. I'm gonna cut this out later. but between the inspector from Superman Smash the Clan, Jet Li, and Jackie Chan, this podcast has really revealed your affinity for older men.
Don't you dare cut that out. Leave it in. This is a call. I'm single, guys. Oh my god. That is hilarious.
Okay.
That's cursed. Okay, moving on. Oh my god. Okay. So your comments on this section is also really funny. White boy better not become romantically involved with Sparrow by the end, because their chemistry is nothing. But the movie is trying so hard. And for me, I said the chemistry is not chemistrying.
I think that's very accurate. Yeah,
it just doesn't work.
Not. Like, they have no interaction throughout this whole movie, and then suddenly he's like trying to like I don't. It just doesn't work. They shouldn't have. The movie would have been fine if they didn't, frankly.
Yeah, and also I feel like the fucked up part about that as well is that like it's very clear that because Sparrow is such an underdeveloped character and even the characters around her don't know her very well, it's very clear that Jason only likes her because he's like ooga booga pretty girl, because he doesn't know anything about her. We don't know anything about her, so that's also why like it doesn't make sense in story, right, that he likes her, but also like it doesn't make any sense to the audience why he likes her, which like you gotta have at least one for a story beat to like that to work, especially if it's a romantic interaction, and the fact that it has neither just means that it falls flat on its fucking face. So yeah, there we go.
All right,
if you came here for the romance, you'll be disappointed.
I guess we try to catch back up to the plot. Where were we?
Yes, so we are at the
whip chick attacks them, and then like they fight, and they can't win, so they like start running away. And this is like my favorite part of the movie. He just like they're running away. They're on horseback. They're running away, and then it just cuts to the whip chick, and she just holds out her hand, and then they put a bow in her hand, and then they put an arrow in her other hand, and she just like shoots an arrow out of nowhere. Apparently, she's an archer now. I thought that was just like so out of left field and so weird and so campy. I loved it so much.
I also just love that like it's very clear that they wrote her to kind of be like in a league of her own, and she has like magical powers. She's supposed to be like a witch, right? And so it's just funny that she has like an army that she brings with her, which is like why they end up getting away in the first place. Is it like she attacks them, has success attacking them, stops attacking them, and then tells her army to kill them. They like fight with the army, and then they like get on their horses and they run away, and then she gets handed the bow and arrow like by her army members, and then she ends up hitting Lu Yan with an arrow. And I'm like, why didn't you just start with that? Like, if that was like if there was a possibility that was gonna work, like, why didn't you just do that to begin with? So weird.
If you're that good of a sniper,
yeah, exactly.
Probably should have started with it.
You could have been up on another hill and they wouldn't have even seen you coming. But no, you presented yourself to them in this, which by the way, they're like fighting in like a cherry blossom field.
Very cool fight, by the way.
It is a
I
very cool
enjoyed it a
fight,
lot.
but it's
Very
very
cool fight.
aesthetically pleasing. But like you presented yourself to them in the cherry blossom field and then like sniped this man while he was on horseback running away. Like you could have hid. You could have hid and they would all be dead.
She's so close. You're so close.
So close.
All right, so Jackie Chan is now like dying. There's an arrow in his back, and they're like, "What are we gonna do?" And then like
Oh, no.
a little monk kid shows up, and they're like, "Cool, cut." They're in a monastery now. Jackie Chan's still dying.
Yep. It's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. And then like up to this point, we thought Jackie Chan was an immortal because like Golden Sparrow called him like the drunken immortal, and he didn't really correct her on that. So they're like, he'll be fine, right? As long as he like drinks his like elixir, which is his wine, he'll be okay.
Yeah.
Turns out, I guess he wasn't lying. He just never corrected anyone about it.
Yeah.
Turns out he wasn't an immortal, and he is very screwed.
Yeah. And I just think that that's like such a cool reference back to his like historical character as well, like the myth of Lu Yan who like lived for 220 years, right? Like I think it's like a very cool reference, and like I think whoever did write this movie at the end of the day, even if they didn't like characterize everybody as well as they could, like it's clear that they did their research and like had a story that they wanted to convey, even if they didn't do it like in the best possible way. But yeah, like I thought that was cool. But now
Also,
basically like, oh yeah, go ahead.
I think like during this scene, there's like some really poignant moments where like Jason's trying to figure out how to save him, and he's like, "I'm not actually an immortal," like, and then he like gets a little philosophical, and he's like, you know, like, what's the point, right? Like I actually would rather not be an immortal because like I don't want to like watch everyone die, like all the people I love die around me,
Yeah.
right? And like he gets a little into like Buddhist philosophy too, where he's like, you know, like just clinging on to life is only going to add to suffering. It's actually just better just to like detach yourself, right? And not try to strive for that and like be happier. So like he seems pretty at peace with dying here.
Yeah. Yeah. I also did think it was funny that like there's a part where they think at least at the beginning that like Jackie Chan's one of the 8 immortals, and each of the 8 immortals has like like a personal elixir, and they think that like wine is his personal elixir. And so Jason is like, we need to get him some wine, like he's dying. And one of the monks at the monastery that's taking care of him is like, we will send a walking monk. And Jackie Chan wakes up and he's like, can you send a running monk?
That's actually a genius piece of
And
dialogue.
so it's like, that was really funny. I really like that. And so yeah, no, Jason then eventually like decides that he's gonna like give the staff to the Jade Warlord so that he can get the immortal elixir to save his friend's life.
Oh no, right. There's a really great moment here where he's like all sad, and he like walks out to the balcony, and he sees Golden Sparrow, and Golden Sparrow's like,
Oh god.
"When I met you
yeah.
in the tavern, you're like just a boy or something like that, but now you're like a man that I want to fight alongside." Right? and like, and I was just like, okay, cool. And then it gets worse, right? And then we get to this moment where he's like talking to this Jet Li, and he's like, "I need to go get the elixir." And Jet Li's like, "No, you're gonna like fucking die if you go get the elixir," right? So like it's really setting up this like whole thing where it's like I'm gonna go save my friend, my mentor, right? So like Jet Li then walks into like the room, and he sees the staff is gone, right, symbolizing that Jason has like bailed out and he's gonna like get the elixir, right? And I was like, this whole time I was like, you know, if we're gonna be cliche, let's be cliche, right? This girl just told you that she's gonna fight alongside you. You're having a whole conflict about going off alone to fight, right? I was really expecting like that whole scene running away, like that she was gonna go with them, and she just didn't. And I was like, why would you put that scene there?
Yeah.
Which the only reason that scene was there was for bad romance.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I did not connect those two things. I just thought it was like a weird cheesy moment where she was just like, I want to like, you know, like saying like I want to fight alongside you as like a cop out for not saying like I want to fuck you. I want to fight with you. Like what?
His dilemma in the very next scene is that he's gonna go fight alone. So like if you put those two scenes next to each other, the implication should be that like the solution to this whole dilemma would be that I guess not. Like they can't even get bad. They can't even get bad writing right. You know, like they can't even do the
Oh
cliche
my god.
correctly.
No, you're correct. No, it's so weird. And again, like I said, like it's very jarring, you know. There's just like a lot of stuff that happens where you're just like, what the fuck? This doesn't make any sense. And I think that's one of them as well.
All
Um
right, so he's like in the warlord's palace now. He like
yeah.
rode out there alone because he's gonna save Jackie Chan, even though Jet Li doesn't want him to. And he like gives the staff to. And he's like, Jade Warlord, I'll give you the staff. You give me elixir immortality. We can be cool here, right? And like, I love this scene so much because Jade Warlord is just like,
He's so
huh.
chill with it, honestly.
he's, he's like hamming it up in this role. Like he's having so much fun,
Oh
just
yeah.
like being evil. And he's like, huh, you know what? You're right. This is a very good deal. But I also did promise, I did also did promise Witch Lady here that I would give her the elixir. So there's only one thing we can do now. A fight to the death. And
You
like
guys have to fight each other.
I loved it the whole time because I knew exactly where it was going. And like the whole time it's just like I'm just like yes, 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 yes.
Yep.
Fight. Say it please. And he does. I love it so much.
He is you can, and again, like you said, you can tell that actor is just having like the time of his life. He's wearing like black glitter eyeshadow and
Rocking
like
it. He's
yeah, no,
rocking it.
his costumes like decked out in gold and like he's having the time of his life. So yeah, no, the rest of the movie is basically just like one long fight scene. So we don't really have to get into like the nitty-gritty details of that, but I will also say something that I did think that was like very ironic about this scene is that even though the witch Ni Chang, she's like men always lie, blah blah blah. She seems like genuinely hurt that the Jade Warlord does not just give her the elixir and that
I don't
he
know.
like
I think she seems
lied to
excited.
her.
I
That
read that as
he
excited that she wants to fight this guy.
Really? No, because like she was like, "But master, like I did the thing." And he was like, "Well, you didn't actually give me the staff. Like the kid is the one who came with the staff, so like you have to fight him." And then she's like, "Okay, with pleasure." But also like that's just not that doesn't line up with what we've like seen. Like again, like men always lie. Really, girl? And you didn't see this coming? Like,
Actually,
you know.
talking about that, like she is like men always lie, and she has like a lot of this, like anti-men rhetoric throughout the whole movie. But she doesn't actually really have a particular bone to pick with any men in this movie. Like for someone who's coded as like really anti-men, she's not particularly trying to kill any of the men. She's just
And
trying to get the staff.
yeah, and she's not like hostile towards the Jade Warlord in particular either. Like she doesn't like lash out at him and try to kill him when he doesn't give her the elixir, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just yeah, like
And
my
most of her
thing
other dialogue is like very much her and Golden Sparrow, right? Like like a
yeah.
lot of her fights are her versus Golden Sparrow. There's a
Yeah.
lot of dialogue. If she's not talking about how much she hates men, she's actually mostly just talking about Golden Sparrow.
Yeah.
That is some
We love our
bad writing.
bisexual icon. um no, I think that like I just think it's weird that she's like the math isn't mathing for me in that scene. Like if I was writing that scene, I would definitely have her. I mean, and this isn't like the best choice either because I think the best way to have written the scene in line with like her character what we've seen so far is that like she had a backup plan. And when he stabs her in the back, she manages to get something from him even though like she doesn't get the elixir or something, right? Either like she fights him to the death, mortally wounds him so that the heroes can win or like have a chance to win and so like redeeming herself or um like she just fights him in general to try to get the elixir out of his hand or she does like a self-sacrifice. Like I think there's like so many ways that you could have played this that are still in line with this like I don't like men thing, but instead she just channels all of that towards Jason, who hasn't really done anything to her to like warrant this like reaction or this like fight at all.
Think
So
you're
yeah.
right. I think you're right that that would make better writing. But we're also writing camp here, so like
Yeah, we are running camp, and I do think they needed a reason to like get Jason warmed up for the fight. Which is like kind of funny too, though, because he doesn't really do most of the fighting. Like he does the first half of it with the witch, but then like Jackie Chan and Jet Li come in, and then it's like, And then the Monkey King wakes up, and then for the rest of the fight scene, it's really like the four of them just like fighting one another or
Yeah.
fighting other people.
So like
Um,
Jason's fighting the witch. She beats him down real hard, and then suddenly we have like the whole cavalry scene where like
yeah, everybody comes
the
in.
like the monk, Jackie Chan comes in, Golden Sparrow comes in, and then also for some reason all the kid monks too. That was weird. Uh, right,
That
and
was
then like
weird.
yeah, and then we get our like big fight. Jackie Chan gets the elixir of immortality, which I thought was kind of weird because a moment earlier Jackie Chan was like super okay with dying, and he was like spouting all sorts of pretty decent philosophy about like death and mortality, and then he just drinks the elixir, which like was kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
And then like they get the group fight, and then they break up into smaller fights, and then this is where like my favorite piece of dialogue in the whole movie happens. The Golden
Which
Sparrow
one?
splits off with with the witch. And Golden Sparrow, remember, she's talking in third person this whole time, right? So she's like, "She will kill you, witch," right? And then the witch
Oh my
immediately
god,
responds,
yes!
not if I kill you first, orphan bitch." Like, what? That's so extra. You did not have to go there. Not, not have to go there. Why did you do that?
No, it's literally. Oh my god.
It's so fucked up, but it's so great. That's
Oh
like
my
the
fucking god.
epitome of camp in this movie.
No, it's so good though because you don't see it coming. You don't see it fucking coming. Like I did not expect. Like also like the word bitch is like that's so English. That's such an English thing to say. Like I don't.
Necessary.
It was so funny, and I also just love that it rhymes. It has really good rhythm to it, you know. Like what the fuck though?
But like
She will kill
calling
you,
her an
witch.
orphan was already extra enough. But no, you had to go with orphan bitch.
Orphan bitch, yeah. I my comment on that was that is the campiest fucking thing I have ever heard.
I love it so much.
Yep.
That
It is.
That movie knocks it up a one letter grade.
Yep.
That line, those two lines, one letter grade up. I don't care where we end up. I'm going one letter grade up.
It's so good though. It's so good. Definitely one of my favorite scenes. I also love that you were like, "What the fuck, LMAO? Who wrote that?" Yeah. So, do you want to talk about the vengeance rebound?
So, as we recall, at a very obvious point in the movie, she's talking about her backstory. She's like, "I'm gonna use my hairpin to throw it at this guy and kill him," and then Jet Li is like, "Be careful, vengeance rebounds." So we get to the moment where she's staring the Jade Warlord down the whole. She's staring the Jade Warlord down, and she pulls the hairpin out of her hair, and like the whole time I'm just like, "Yes, vengeance rebound, vengeance rebound, vengeance rebound," and she throws it at him, and then guess what happens? He like force
Does
pushes
the
it
vengeance
back.
rebound?
And vengeance rebounds.
The vengeance
And she got-
rebounded.
Vengeance rebounded. And I was like, this is the greatest writing I've ever seen. Brilliant.
Yep. It's brilliant. It's so good. It's so campy. It's awful. I hated it.
This is how you tie back your story. This is 101.
Foreshadowing
English
101.
good writing. Chekhov's gun, check.
I also love that your thing was vengeance rebound. The writing in this movie, too brilliant. A+, 10 out of 10. No notes. Beautiful. They really
Very
did
impressive.
that. I know I should be sad, but I cannot stop laughing. I'm terrible. LOL. Oh my god. Yeah, so a few things happen. Basically like everything gets resolved. There's actually like a really cool twist where we find out that the silent monk was actually like he was like a offshoot or like a copy of the Monkey King, which we see him do that at the very beginning of the fight with the Jade Warlord at the very beginning of the movie, where he like duplicates himself into like something else with his hair, which is actually canon in the Journey to the West story, is that there is a there's like a it's basically called like the Cart Kingdom arc of the story, where he like saves a bunch of Buddhist monks from this like bad Taoist kingdom, and he gives each of them a piece of their hair that turns into like a copy of him as like a guardian protector. So that's actually like canon in the story, and it's kind of a crazy like twist, I will say, like when the Monkey King comes back to life, when he has his staff and the silent monk is like looking up at him, and he smiles and then disappears into a mirage and turns back into hair. I was like, damn, that's kind of good. That's
That's
kind of
actually
good.
it's kind
Wait.
of crazy how that piece of good foreshadowing was right next to Vengeance Rebound.
Yeah.
Apparently, they can write good foreshadowing, and they
Yeah,
just
they
like
just like
did once
actively
and
chose
then
not to when it came to Sparrow specifically. No, yeah, so that was actually kind of cool, and I was like you know that like Leonardo meme where he's like staring at like he's like pointing at the TV screen and he's like, "Wait, I
Mhm.
know that reference." That was me when I watched this. I was like, "I know the hair thing. I know what that's from." Also, both the Monkey King and the Silent Monk are played by Jet Li. So,
That makes a lot of sense.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was
that
it
makes a
was
lot of
really cool.
sense.
It was like, kind of like on
Yeah,
a
I
meta
was
level and stuff. So,
at first I was like, oh, Jet Li's the monkey. Okay, cool. And then I was like, oh, they've stoned the monkey, so like they gotta like make a new character for Jet Li because we're not gonna have Jet Li in this movie and not use him, right?
yup.
And then having it tied back to the Monkey King, I was like, oh, it wasn't them just creating a new character just to have Jet Li in the movie. You know, like I thought it was a corporate decision. It was not. It was actually kind of like a really cool thematic decision.
Yeah.
All right, so
So
the
we're
fight's
basically
over.
that's basically the end of it, honestly. That's like where all the interesting things stop happening.
No, 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 no. I have one more very
Oh
important note.
god, okay. Oh
Okay,
no.
so so Jason finishes his isekai arc. He gets sent back, right? That's all cool. I guess Jackie Chan's an immortal now, and Jet Li's a monkey. Um, and then we go back to the real
Jet Li's
world,
a
right?
monkey.
We go back to the real world, or I guess like Jason's world, right? And then like he wakes up, and like the bullies are right there, right?
Oh
And then they like
god,
start
yeah.
beating him up, right? And I was like,
Yup.
okay, I know where this is going. Vengeance rebounds, right?
Oh
Right?
my
The
god.
theme of the movie is that vengeance rebounds, and like you shouldn't seek vengeance, right? So then he's getting beat up, and then he's like starts breaking out a little bit of kung fu, and I was like, okay, he's gonna like beat the guy, but he's gonna spare him at the end. No, he just keeps beating the dude.
Yep.
And he just lays out the bully, and I was like, wait, vengeance rebounds. Why is he taking vengeance? I thought, did he not learn his lesson from Golden Sparrow?
I think that the last part of this movie is literally just fantasy fulfillment for white guys who wish they knew kung fu so that they could beat up their old school bullies.
You
Like
know,
that's it.
a true hallmark of an isekai. They
True.
nailed it.
No, I think that at the end of the day that this movie is fantasy fulfillment. You also see this like so basically at the end of like the fight and everything, Sparrow dies, but then when he goes back to the real world, there's a girl who looks just like her and she is like alive technically, and she works at another pawn shop called, you guessed it, the Golden Sparrow. And so it's like it's literally just like wish fulfillment, I think, at the end
Also,
of the day.
Hop's not dead.
Oh
Hop
yeah,
is like on a
Hops is
stretcher, and he's like
alive.
talking, and like he looks like Jackie Chan, and it's like,
You know
okay,
what's
I
kind of
guess.
crazy?
What?
Hops is played by Jackie Chan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It makes so much sense now.
Yes. That's like why he keeps making like immortality jokes and stuff. But yeah,
It's just so like on the nose about
it
it.
is
You
very
know? It's
on the
like,
nose. It's very corny. There's a lot of corn going on. Um but no, yeah, it was a good movie overall. I have some bones to pick about the characterization and stuff, but overall it's just like it's just a fun romp, you know. And you don't like you shouldn't really think too hard about it. I mean, we think too hard about it because we're us, but if you just watch the movie just for like fun, it's fun. It's very fun.
I've said it several times. This movie's probably gonna get better with alcohol and friends. One of those things, and like that's not an insult. Like some things genuinely like I think like when you say like drink and like watch a movie, like it kind of sounds like a bad thing, but I'm not even really saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying like this is kind of a really enjoyable thing in that way, and it was kind of probably meant to be enjoyed in like a similar way, or where it's like camp. Don't take it too seriously. Don't think about it too hard. Like don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Also, if you do drink during the movie, you'll be drinking technically with Jackie Chan because he's drinking the whole fucking time. So,
Yeah, I genuinely really enjoyed it. I did mention earlier that I did want to talk about like some of the reasons why I think like this movie was really bad, and I guess now's the best time to talk about it.
let's get into
So
it
like,
then.
so I feel like this movie is probably bad because of like some weird ass like corporate meddling or like Hollywood like mainstream appeal or something like that, right? Because like at the
Yeah.
core of this movie, I think you have like a really great love letter to the types of things that came before. You talk about all the great parallels that it has between this and like Journey to the West, right? All the great references it has to like old school like Shaw Brothers movies, wuxia movies, or like the Hong Kong kung fu movies, right? Like
Yeah.
it's really synthesizing a lot of things out of love here, and it genuinely and those parts land really well, right? And now we
Yes, they
think about
do.
the things that aren't working about this movie, right? It's like the oddness of Jason being a white dude in this movie that's like kind of a retread of a Chinese myth. So why is Jason white? It's really distracting.
Yeah.
Golden Sparrow's introduction, right? She's not really in the original books, right? And like her love interest like stuff is really forced. You have like this weird like thing going on with like the witch like hating men and stuff like that, like right. And it
Yeah.
really tells me, and the thing that I think that really tips me off to this being like a corporate schlock problem or mainstream appeal problem is that like this is a movie starring Jackie Chan and Jet Li, right? Like you have these two actors in a kung fu movie during this time, right? You're banking on it being a blockbuster, and I really think like all these like odd elements that we've been pointing out are just things that like are kind of what Hollywood expects from like general like mainstream like schlock, you know? Like you
Yeah.
gotta have like the white protagonist, you gotta have like the love interest, even though it makes no sense, right? Right. If we
Yep.
allude to feminism, it's only going to be in this very specific way that doesn't really make sense nor serve the movie in any way, right? And like it kind of feels tragic in a certain way because like everything else about the movie works so well, and it's like you can clearly tell that like all of these other things are just like in service of making the movie like a blockbuster hit, right?
Yep.
Because like if we're going to spend money on Jackie Chan and Jet Li in the same movie, we're going to have to like compromise on certain things and make the movie kind of low key worse, right?
Yeah.
In order to like guarantee our return on investment. And like the thing is, this movie was a blockbuster success,
Yep.
right?
I totally agree with you. I think that thinking about it in that way just makes a lot more things make sense. But at the end of the day, like this is a piece of media, and if you're taking all of that stuff aside and analyzing just as it is without the corporate meddling and everything, there are a lot of things that don't make sense, and that's not good, right? Your story and the compromises that you've made in your story should never be explained by like there was a outside force meddling with my creative abilities, right? And that sucks because that's how I think a lot of things happen. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you see it a lot in like Marvel movies and stuff too, right? Like they're like so they get really
Oh,
close, really fucking close to making a point, and then somebody was
give
like,
me my
too
day.
liberal, too liberal, no, 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 take it back, and it's like, fuck, dude. Um, and
Ah,
again, like
bro,
with the
bro, Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Black Panther. Oh, I want to so
Bro,
much. I want to talk about that.
oh my god. Okay, we'll do those. We'll do those eventually. We have to. We're probably gonna do like a Marvel thing, even though there's no Asian superheroes in Marvel for us to really talk about except for Shang Chi.
Shang-Chi.
There's literally nobody, and like maybe Scarlett
S-
Johansson, but
I think also Sony wants to do a Silk thing, which makes me so nervous because like
oh yeah, very
Silk
nervous because we know
as a
her
character,
backstory. We
yeah, like it's not just that. Like the comic community has largely gone over Silk's backstory. We'll talk about this another day, but the comic community has largely gone over how problematic Silk's backstory is. Sony, on the other hand, I do not have any faith to be able to handle this with tact.
Yeah,
Like,
you are probably right. There's just a lot of like bombs in that particular story that I feel like they will probably not be able to handle with a lot of grace, but
but
anyways,
they also did Into the Spider Verse, so it's like it's this really weird thing about like
yeah.
I'm
It's like,
biting my nails.
can you do
It's either
it?
Into the Spider-Verse or it's Morbius, but it's
Oh
Morbius with
my
a race
fucking
bend, and I'm
god,
scared.
Morbius! No, no. God, Morbius is so fucking bad. Anyways. So we're getting off topic. We'll do our superheroes thing. We did Superman Smashes the Clan, but we'll do some more stuff concerning comic books and everything and their impact. But and again, like we could tie this back into like the wuxia thing, right? Like martial arts movies, like fighting films, right? Fighting as entertainment has always been a big thing, and I don't think it's getting any less that way. I think that nowadays we look for more gratuitous things. We look for things that are more intense, more artistic. That's why John Wick blows up every time a new movie comes out, because it's like the fight choreography in those movies is fucking insane. Can you tell me a single thing that happens in any of the actual plot lines of the John Wick movies? No, it's just vibes. You're just going to the theater to watch Keanu Reeves rip ass, kick ass. God damn it.
Not learn your lesson. God
I'm sorry.
damn
I'm sorry. Kick ass on a bunch of like random faceless goons, you know? And if you're watching this particular movie, if you're watching The Forbidden Kingdom because you want to watch Jet Li and Jackie Chan like go at it in a cave, or you want to watch like some really campy but really good fight choreography and like have a little laugh and like maybe be drinking with your friends, right? Like this is a good movie. But to be honest with you, there are a lot of things wrong with the way that they wrote certain things and the way that they have presented certain characters, and I think that there is just on a meta level like a lot to be improved here. We talked a lot about Sparrow and the comparison with her and Ni Chang. And we talked about this in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon as well, but like the comparison between Jen and her own mentor, right? Jen as like this very sort of young yet rebellious, but again, mostly young, beautiful, young girl who is like very impressionable and trying to like find her own way in the world, versus like this older, more experienced, who is also a witch, might I add, right? Woman, right? And they are like in competition with each other basically the entire film. And to be honest with you, I think in the Forbidden Kingdom, like you could say that that kind of comparison and that kind of clash is like subtle enough that honestly, I think it might just be like a side effect of watching enough wuxia movies where the writing like that is just like a subtle subconscious copycat of what they found before. I don't even think they did the bad female writing thing on purpose. Um, if they did, kudos to them because it works, right? But also, like, you watch enough of a certain kind of media and then you try to replicate it, the things that come out in the things that you're trying to replicate, whether or not it's on purpose, are going to come out,
Yeah.
right? Giving Sparrow this like weird, tragic, really out of place orphan backstory in the middle of the film, where at the point she doesn't really even need a character motivation, which is so strange, right? But like she's already been slotted in. And then giving her another tragic backstory on top of that was like wholly unnecessary. But why was it unnecessary? And why as do we as an audience like get frustrated by things like that as well? And like it's just a whole bunch of things that like, you know, kind of sort of topple on top of one another, and I think that it just came out the most with those two characters because those two characters, as tropey as this movie is, Sparrow and Ni Chang are literally just tropes. That is the extent of their fucking characterization. Like the mean witch bitch who like hates the main character because she's like younger, beautiful, and like more, you know, experienced, and that or like better at her than fighting, or she's prettier or whatever. And then like the main heroine protagonist who doesn't really know what's going on but like probably has a tragic backstory, even though it doesn't really matter to the actual plot. She just needs a reason to be there, but it doesn't matter to anybody else, therefore it doesn't matter to us as an audience. Like that is a trope. That's just a trope. She's a trope. The witch is a trope. And that's why it falls on its head, is because they're not characters. They're just copy paste of something else that the writers probably saw in another piece of media. And it didn't work. It didn't work in those, and it doesn't work in this.
And it's like there's something about this type of movie where it's like borderline satirical, borderline parody of like the movies that came before. So like if you're gonna do tropes, they have to be subversive in some way. And that's like what
Or
Jackie
at least
Chan
try
and,
to
like,
make them
Jet Li's
subversive in some
characters.
way.
Huh?
Like, at least try to make them subversive
Yeah.
in some way, yeah.
Like that's kind of like the whole conceit of your movie if you're gonna do something like this, right? And it's
Yeah.
like they did a really good job with like Jackie Chan and like Jet Li and like the Drunken Master and like the Silent Monk, right? And like they're having a lot of fun skewering these tropes. But then we get to the tropes of like the woman, and it's like they don't do anything with it. They don't run anywhere with it.
Yeah. Which is just disappointing, I think.
Yeah.
Because if I watched this movie and they subverted both of those female tropes into something different, I think I would have been very impressed, no matter how campy or ridiculous everything else was. And campy or ridiculous, it definitely was. But I think that one of the weird strengths of this movie too is that the camp works.
When it's working, it's working.
I think so, and that's why it's really
Orphan
upsetting.
bitch.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh my fucking god, right? Like it's funny. It's funny without I think even like really trying to be super funny. And it's just I guess it's disappointing that I'm like I can acknowledge where it does work, which is why where it falls flat is like that much more disappointing because I'm like, you could have done something really interesting with this, but then you just decided not to. Like, the thing with Silent Monk actually being like a subset of the Monkey King is like, it's such a crazy twist, and it's actually really fucking meta and really cool. And it's all like, it's cool on its own, but then if you know the backstory and you know, like, you have a general idea of like what the Journey to the West is really about, and you know that reference, it's like, it elevates it that much more. But on its own, it's a really good fucking twist because we saw it before in the movie too. Like they foreshadow it before. And with like Jet Li playing both characters, like it just that is something that took thought and time and effort, and it's good. And they just did not do that for either one of their female characters. You know?
Yeah. All right. So I got two questions for you. The first one is top picks, Raccoon Rambles. What are we feeling here?
Oh my god.
I'm you know like I feel like I'm feeling Raccoon Rambles like Raccoon Rambles sounds like it implies that this is bad and like it's like categorically awful and you can't have fun with it. And I think that's not true. Raccoon
Yeah.
Rambles for me means it's like not great, but also you can have fun with it. Camp is kind of literally that. So
Yeah.
I'm putting my vote down for Raccoon
I
Rambles
I
here.
think that we can do Raccoon Rambles, but I do think that maybe we should do like tiers for Raccoon Rambles. And I think in terms of trash, this is like A plus trash. Like
Okay,
Rent
okay,
a
so we have a
Girlfriend,
separate
Rent
tier
a
list.
Girlfriend is F tier trash. It's just trash. There's nothing you can do with it. You can't repurpose it or recycle it or do anything good with it. This, I think it's A trash. I think that the camp works. I think if you're looking at it as a parody, it works. There's downfalls, but there's downfalls in the rest of the genre, and I think that's why, because it's a product of the genre. But I don't know. I would say like either A or B plus trash for me.
I was gonna say it was like on like our normal scale, it would be like C. But if we're talking about like trash, and I think that
Yeah,
you're making a
trash.
really good distinction here. We should probably separate these two tier lists. If we're talking about trash, this is definitely A tier trash.
Yes, A
Like
tier trash.
it is so fun. I had so much fun with it,
It's
right? And like
high
I
grade
genuinely,
reusable plastic. Like,
yeah, I would genuinely recommend like you go watch this.
yeah.
First of all, you probably should have watched it before you listened to the podcast, but if you haven't, go watch it now.
Yeah. Now you know
It's
everything that's going to
actually really
happen,
fun.
but
Yeah, honestly, it's one of those things you know what's gonna happen. You're still gonna have fun with it. So like yeah, yeah, A tier trash. But also remember earlier in the episode I said like I have to give it an extra letter grade for that one line. And you know what? I stick to my word. Yeah, geez.
You
So
do stick
it's
to your
S tier
word.
trash.
No,
And like
okay.
it kind of doesn't deserve
Okay.
But also I stick to my word.
You do stick to your word. You know, agree to disagree. It's S tier trash for you. I'm gonna stick to my A plus. I think that where this movie works, it really works, and if you're not thinking too hard about it, you can really enjoy it. But I do think that like even with stuff like this where you just can turn your brain off and you don't have to think too much about it, right? I still think it's valuable to have time where you actually do dive into pieces of media like this, because there's a reason why female characters get sidelined. There's a reason why every single time there's more than one female like character, they usually get pitted against each other in some way. Like there's a reason why these things happen, and it's good to know why they happen.
Mhm.
And it's good to talk about it, and it's good to be aware of that, because as fun as media can be, it influences us, you know, like you might not physically notice it, but your brain definitely does. And so for those of you out there who are yeah, sorry. For those of you out there that are like, you know, interested in either like writing or, you know, putting your own stories out there, knowing why these tropes fail and knowing why a story is bad and why it doesn't work is valuable. But yeah, you were gonna say, sorry.
Yeah, I was also gonna say like I'm like under like the type of like philosophy where it's like it's okay to enjoy things that are like not great or problematic and like have problematic themes or like subtext in it as long as you like can take the time to like understand and like dissect why and then like have that reveal something greater about like philosophy or like sociology or like the greater world
Mm-hmm.
around you. So like I'm totally down for like being able to enjoy this movie and saying it's great and saying it's like S
Mm-hmm.
tier while also acknowledging that like there are some problematic things, right? And like that's okay, right? We don't have to just hate things prima facie like because they have problematic things. Like we can still like them as long as we're able to dig and understand and
Yeah.
engage with those. But also also have room to turn your brain off and watch this
Yeah,
movie too. Like,
exactly.
like it's that
Yeah.
kind of balance,
Yeah.
Like, don't take it too seriously, but take it enough seriously to where we can like understand how like the sociology and like of our country of our culture created these
Yeah.
types of tropes in here,
Yeah.
and why that's important, and why like they don't make sense or don't work, or why they should
Yeah.
like be rethought.
Yeah, no, exactly. Could not have said it any better. Um so yeah.
All right. So we do have a bit more time, and we haven't done a
We
gems of the week in a while. So
do.
like, where are you at with that?
Oh god. I A bit of a real moment for me. I've been going through a lot of personal stuff this past month, so I haven't had a lot of time to be digesting anything new. But and it's, I might be like, some of you might really judge me for this, but I'll just say I started watching My Hero Academia. And I actually really like it.
Just
Yeah.
now?
I actually really like it. I really actually enjoy the first season. I'm on the second season now, but I actually think that the story is like pretty fucking good, and I like the way that they're playing certain tropes of like different hero types, and like I think that I haven't really ever seen a show like My Hero. I think a lot of people group it in with like Demon Slayer and those other kind of like shonen pro tag animes where it's like the main character is a young boy who's like trying to find his way in the world with like this immense power. But to be honest with you, I think My Hero does a lot to subvert a lot of the tropes that are found in superhero type things, and I'm enjoying it so far. I know that the fandom is like fucking weird, but I think the story is really good so far, so I'm gonna keep watching it and see where it goes. I'm only in the second season right now. I just started it, but I don't know. I think it's pretty good
All
so
right.
far, but you can judge me if you think that you can judge me if you don't like
I
it.
think I think up to where you are and probably a little further, it's really good. I'm caught up with the manga though, and I don't want to say anything, but like,
That's what I've
eh.
heard. I've heard that like the story kind of starts to deteriorate once it became like more mainstream, but I've heard that the first few seasons are like pretty good. So,
This is gonna be a little bit of a tangent, but like Horikoshi, first of all, his
yeah.
manga art is fucking amazing. I think he might be one of the best artists when it comes to like dynamic action in manga. Seriously, like you like the show, take a time just to like flip through some of
Mhm.
the pages. His art is
Yeah.
excellent. He also said at some point that he kind of wants to write a horror manga next,
Ooh.
right? And I think his art style would really work for it. And low key, it kind of just feels like he's thinking more about the horror manga than this manga at this point. Like it really just feels like he just wants to wrap it up, and like I'm kind of feeling I just want him to wrap it
Yeah.
up, like so he can move on to this next project because he seems way more excited about
Yeah.
this than like where
I
we
th-
are right now in the manga, and like
I
that's how I feel. But once you get there,
Yeah,
you tell
yeah.
me how
I
you feel
also
about
think
it.
that like I see certain elements of it in My Hero. Like I think that he wants to play with like this darker side of like family and tragedy, and but the problem is that like the genre that he's playing with does not have a lot of flexibility for those darker things. Like, and this is the big problem that I have with Demon Slayer. And you know what, Demon Slayer fans out there, like you can rip into me for this. I don't care. I don't like Demon Slayer. I think that the way that they play personal
Really?
trauma in Demon Slayer undermines personal trauma. I don't think that Tanjiro should be a happy character at all. I don't think you were a normal, happy-go-lucky shonen protag normal buddy boy after seeing your entire family slaughtered in your house covered in blood. Like, it's not like they just disappeared or anything. Like, he saw their dead bodies and he's like fine. Tanjiro's more mentally stable than I am. Like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. And so I think that, like, where that what did you say his name was, the author of My Hero? I'm sorry, I totally just brain farted. Horikoshi. I think Horikoshi wants to play with these like darker things, but that like very specific genre of like shonen anime protagonist who's like happy go lucky and like everything's good and I want to be a hero does not have a lot of room for the kind of like very intense, like hopeless. Yeah, like you can't have hopelessness in those kinds of in that genre because it doesn't have any room for being hopeless because the characters have to be happy all of the time. So I think that he touches on it. Like I see a lot of it in like Todoroki's backstory with like the abuse that he suffered at both like the hands of his mom and his dad. Deku isn't a very tragic character. And I think that that's like he doesn't have room to really be super tragic. Like he can't have like seen his entire family die because he is the very quintessential like I'm gonna save everybody, and he has to have had like a normal childhood and a loving mother, and I think that makes perfect sense. You know what I mean? Like I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we're getting a little bit more into like the villains at this point now too, and so I think that like I'm gonna really enjoy like the villain backstories because I think that's where he's gonna have more room to play around with like this darkness, hopelessness kind of thing. But yeah, I can see that he has like a passion for doing some darker stuff, but I think the specific story does not leave a lot of room or interpretation for him to do that. And I don't know why I'm talking so much about this, but now that you say that, I'm like connecting the dots on certain things and I'm like this makes so much more sense. But yeah, no, I'll probably check out the manga. Also, we have not done Gems of the Week in a long time, so let me just say I finished the Chainsaw Man manga in a day.
So good.
It's so fucking good. It's so fucking good.
There's so much to talk about, like this manga.
We will
do a whole episode
several
on it. Like,
episodes
frankly,
on this. To be honest with you,
we promised so many episodes, but like this is something I have to do
Yes.
for myself. Like I am.
yes, we are going to do
Chainsaw
Chainsaw
Man.
Man, and the anime is very good. I think that Mappa right now they have a lot on their plate, and the fact that they made Chainsaw Man as beautiful as it was and put the time and effort into doing what they did and how they did it, I think hats off to everybody at Mappa Studios right now because they're doing like a fucking lot right now. Like I know that they did like Vinland Saga season 2. Like I know that they're working on that. I know that they did Chainsaw Man. I know that they're doing Attack on Titan. I know that like they got a lot on their fucking. They're doing a fucking shit ton. So like good for them for like taking the time to carve out like the space for Chainsaw Man and to make it as good as it like should be. I just love the coloring of that anime. Like, I think it's brilliantly colored. It's very well animated. They play around a lot with, like, movement in that. And hats off. Hats off is all I can fucking say. It's a piece of art, both the manga and the anime. Whichever one you prefer, go get into that story because it's fucking amazing. Very good.
Very good. I am so excited to do that episode. This podcast was produced by Yeji.
It was created and written by both of us.
It was edited by me.
And the cover art was done by my good friend Emma Nebecker.